making a difference today in the world of marketing means you are heard. And that is really hard today. If you are competent, you're in trouble because AI is more than competent. I think that is one of the greatest opportunities in the history of marketing. It's right in front of our faces. Most of us aren't doing it. This is something that AI can't touch.
That's Mark Schaefer, one of the world's leading marketing futurists and keynote speakers, and definitely one of the people I refer to time and time again for guidance and inspiration from a marketing perspective. We return to discuss his 11th book, Audacious, How Humans Win in an AI Marketing World. And I ask Mark the question, have we been lazy with our humanness? The wonderful, the splendiferous, and the brain-frying Mark Schaefer. Welcome, Mark.
Yeah, well, you have to tell me why I'm brain frying.
The brain frying thing is your book, which we shall name Audacious, How Humans Win in an AI Marketing World, made me ask myself the questions. Here, I'll tell you, I don't have any excuses anymore. Have we been lazy with our humanness?
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. Oh, I love that. If you would have given me that quote 6 months ago, I would have put it in the book. But that it is a great theme. It really is. It's a great theme that competent doesn't cut it anymore. It's competent is ignorable and competent is lazy. We've got to find a way to rise above the bots.
But I find it's really interesting because, and we need to talk about the book first, but the thing that struck me is in all my work. So if I was to hone in my work, one of my core things is helping people find their uniqueness. And there's such a journey that someone has to take to allow themselves to be brave enough to be themselves and to be in their full humanness and bring their story. Once, if it's traumatic or if there's a story that needs to be healed first and then bring it, that if there's already a struggle with that, where will we be with what you're proposing here, which is we have to lean into our humanness even more?
Well, I love the way you connect the dots there because I think there is definitely a connection between your personal brand and your ability to show up in a human and compelling and creative way. And of course, that's a big passion of mine too. I wrote a book on personal branding called Known, and I didn't go down that route in this book because the book probably would have doubled in size if I had gone down that route. But it is very true to connect on your source of differentiation. That is a really good way to show up in the world in a more um, recognizable, creative, and human way.
But we're afraid of it.
Yes, it's scary. It takes courage. It does. It takes courage. It takes courage for me to do it. It's not. It's not normal for me to do it. I grew up in a family that was very stoic. I mean, I grew up in a family where you don't show your emotions. Big boys don't cry. It took me, years and years of experimentation to sort of like start to open up a little bit. And every time I opened up a little bit, I was rewarded. But I'm still a work in process for sure.
But I remember this about you, that in our last discussion, you said that you are always led by curiosity.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, that seemed to be this recurring thing. And I also remember you saying recently in an interview about this book that this is your journey of 11 books that they all led to here. And they will all lead to the next book, I presume, also.
Yeah, that is very true. If you read all my books in order, it's sort of like each book is a chapter of my life of thinking.
Yeah, it makes sense. So how about you share with our listeners what Audacious is about? Because that's actually an audacious book title also. and why?
Well, I think sharing the first story in the book sort of sets the stage, I think. And I was at an event that I go to every year in America called South by Southwest. It's a sort of festival of thought leadership, and I was at dinner with friends, and then people started to leave the restaurant and just leave their food. And I thought, what is going on? And my back was to the door. I turned around and everybody was standing on the sidewalk. So we left, my friends and I, we left our food to see what was going on. And there was this drone show in the sky that was an ad for a new television show. And at the end of the drone show, there was a QR code. And you could click on the QR code in the sky and go to a trailer for this new television show. Now, today, drone shows have become more common, but 3 or 4 years ago, this was the first time we'd ever seen anything like this. And I became obsessed with this idea that if someone had challenged me to create an ad so amazing that people would leave their food in a restaurant to go see it, could I do it? And the answer was no.
Mm.
And I've spent the last 12 years at least writing and thinking and speaking about this idea of becoming the signal against the noise. And this is a bigger challenge than ever because of AI. I mean, AI is just dumping all kinds of crappy content onto the web, and it just makes it more difficult for everybody. And here was an example that was just so amazing. It was just so, audacious was the word that kept pounding in my head. And I thought, is there a lesson here? Is there a process behind this that might be scalable for everyone? And so I found out who did it, and I talked to the president of the company, and I said, I want you to teach me how to do this. And I want to come to your office, and I want you to open up your meetings, and I want you to share all your secrets, and I'm going to put it in a book. I said, what do you think? He said, absolutely.
Which is crazy.
And so I got on a plane and I went to New York, and that led me on a path to meet and interview some of the greatest creative people in the world, not just Giant Spoon, the agency who did the drone show, but it, but people in Australia and people in England and people in all over Europe, um and they shared their secrets. They just shared all their secrets.
Why did they share their secrets?
That's a great question. That's a great question. When I was in the process of writing the book, I employed what is called a beta reader. A beta reader is someone
Hmm.
who reads the book and makes sure you're not confusing people before you publish it. And one of the beta readers said, all these people you talk to in the book that are sharing all these secrets, I just want to hug them
I love
because
it.
they're giving me so many good ideas. Um, I honestly, I think part of it is that my reputation as a legitimate author preceded me. They knew that for them to be in one of my books was going to be, a nice thing for them, a nice thing for their business and their work. Um, but but they really did. I mean, they really just pulled back the curtains and said, "This is what makes us different." And so it was quite energizing. It was really inspiring and energizing to write the book.
Hmm. And when you're talking about the beta readers, there is a story that you tell that you don't use, it's all human content, it's all you. And that you actually, at the end of the process, uh, talked to AI and asked what was missing,
Yeah,
which is a great use of AI.
yeah, yeah. So I uploaded the whole book into ChatGPT and into another large language model called Claude. And I said, read the book and tell me what's missing. And both both language models came back with the exact same answer. And they said, you really need to have a chapter on measurement. And the truth is, in my original outline, I had a chapter on measurement. And, I took it out because I was just it was too hard and I was getting too tired. And, I wrote a chapter on measurement because ChatGPT told me to.
You say this a lot. We still own crazy. Humans still own crazy. But there's also this thing of if you're competent, you're in trouble because AI is competent. And and let's kind of lead with that in a conversation.
Like, anybody in marketing, or I guess any profession these days, if you've been studying the world of AI and immersing yourself in the world of AI, then you've got to have some fear. If you don't have some fear, then you need to study a little bit more. And it's like, okay, what do I tell people? What do people do? And this has sort of been a theme of my book. All of my books is like, if there's like a hard problem that people are struggling with, if I can figure out what to say, then that would be a really helpful book. And the difference between where we are today and any other time in history is that whenever there's been a technological innovation, you could take another class. You could get you could pivot and get a different college degree. But the difference now is you can't be smarter than AI. You can't outsmart it. You can't take a class and be smarter than AI. So the asset is intelligence. And all of our companies have been built on intelligence. We hire people because they own certain intelligence, and we promote people in those companies because they get more intelligence. They get more experience. Maybe they take another class. But that whole model is going away whenever we live in a world that has abundant, nearly free intelligence. And so what is our role? Where do we play? And so this book explores the uniquely human parts of marketing where AI can't touch us. And it doesn't sugarcoat things. And basically the message is, if you are competent, you're in trouble because AI is competent. AI is more than competent. AI is becoming excellent in many ways. And so we've got to open our minds, we've got to open our hearts and think about this world in a new way. And that is the purpose of the book.
It's an interesting thing in that we've had industrial era thinking for so long,
Yeah.
where conformity is embraced at
Yeah.
length.
Right.
Conformity in large organizations, but also conformity in our schooling systems,
Yeah.
our educational systems that now are also terrified of AI. But yet we still continue to teach our students and teach our employees that it is safer to conform.
Yeah.
So are we finally on the precipice of having the new revolution, or the much what we thought would happen after the industrial era, where we would have more time, where we would indulge in our own creativity and explore things? Do you think that will happen now?
Um, I think the answer to that is maybe, and I'll tell you why. Because I think most companies are asleep.
Yeah.
I think most people are asleep, and they're just gonna. And it's exactly like you said. We have this infrastructure in the world that rewards boring.
Yeah.
We have our traditions. We've sort of we've made dull part of the way we work. We have relationships with advertising agencies that have done the same thing year after year. We like boring because it's easy to get that approved through the legal department. And so for things to really change, culture's going to have to change. And the infrastructure of our creative world is going to have to change. Is that going to happen at the biggest companies in the world? Maybe not. Is that going to happen in small to medium sized companies? Yes. Is it going to happen with entrepreneurs and solopreneurs who are creatives? Yes, because they're going to see the writing on the wall. They're going to read the book like you did, and they're going to say, you know, my brain is frying because I have so many ideas, right? I mean, I had um, uh, the director of uh, of research for Pepsi read the book and write me a note and say, this has made me rethink marketing. So it's gonna happen on an individual basis.
But it also makes me say that we will rethink humanity
Yeah,
because it's forcing us,
yeah,
like, and the reason I asked the question, do you think AI will change this old industrial era thinking and this conformity? Because we went through this stage of, after COVID, the great resignation, that everybody was walking out, everybody was working from home and having better lives. And
yeah,
we could hear the birds singing in the streets and all this kind of stuff. And yet we've just gone back to industrial era thinking again.
yes. A lot of people are bringing up this issue. Is the reality of AI? Is it like recreating humanity? And my view is, wait a minute, just wait a minute. What is humanity? For most of humanity, we've been an agrarian society that basically the purpose of humanity is have babies and don't die. I mean, that's been the purpose of humanity, right? It hasn't been getting a college degree. It hasn't been doing great things. It hasn't been reading books. It's been the purpose of humanity was really quite simple.
Mm.
So is it like reinventing humanity, or is it just taking us back to the way humanity was supposed to be?
I found myself writing in my notes in preparation, can this help me be me
Yeah.
by making me get out of my own way, get out of my own way of, all of the constraints you have as a marketer of consistency and outputting content and all of that, and getting caught up in the technology for the technology's sake.
Yeah.
But actually, will it now create space for me to lean into what we call my genius zone or my unique
Yeah.
ability? Or
Yeah. So let's build on this. Does this help you make help you make you sort of enhance you at your best?
yeah,
There was this piece of research that came out a few weeks ago, and they looked at researchers who were using AI. And the researchers who used AI versus didn't use AI, they had more discoveries, they had more patents, they had more product launches. But a very important and provocative part of that research was it also created more distance between the best researchers and the average researchers. So the best researchers who used AI and even the average researchers who used AI, it made the best better. And so I think that's an interesting aspect of sort of re-energizing, reimagining our own brand, our own contribution to the world, our own place in humanity.
and makes me bring up this idea of fear. So we're often afraid of of being ourselves, of leaning into ourselves, of even thinking that there is something unique about us. And, because you've got to dig deep enough to find it.
Yeah.
Does this eliminate the excuses?
Um, no, I think there'll always be excuses.
Okay, cool. Great.
um, but I think, I teach a class of personal branding, and I've added a new exercise about using AI to help you unearth maybe unique aspects. And one of the things AI is really good at is analysis. And there's have you heard of this tool called Notebook LM?
Recently, yes.
Yeah. So Notebook LM is a Google product, and you can upload large quantities of data. Like you could upload books and you could upload blog posts, and then once you do that, you can actually have a conversation with it. And it has like a human voice. And you say, okay, here's all this information. Tell me give me some of the themes of this. And you can sort of have a conversation about what did you find out about me? So I think there's some interesting,
Tell me who I am.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Take it with a grain of salt because it still is an algorithm, written by a bunch of white guys in Silicon Valley. But um, you know, but I think there are interesting ways to use AI for self discovery.
You say fear holds boring in place. Tell us more about that.
You know, one of just one of the greatest honors was meeting and interviewing a woman named Bianca Guimaras. She is one of the, I mean, she's one of the hottest creative minds in the world right now. She just wins award after award. She is the co-founder of an agency called Mischief. And one of the things she taught me in our interview is that uh, uh, really the only obstacle to being relevant in this world, even with AI, is fear. It's fear of everything. It's fear of upsetting someone. It's fear of losing a customer. It's fear of imposter syndrome. And the the number one cultural foundation of her company is that we are not going to live in fear. She said the traditional advertising agency framework is built on fear. You don't want to upset people. You don't want to upset the industry. And she said we must have a culture that protects dangerous ideas. And so I think that's it's so inspirational and so aspirational. And um, to me, it seems almost impossible because I grew up most of my career in a Fortune 100 company, right? And in a Fortune 100 company, there's expectations of Wall Street, and there's expectations of regulators, and there's expectations of bosses, and there's expectations of the board, and there's expectations of your department, and there's expectations of competitors, and it just literally holds you in place. And to sort of think about, there are companies out there now starting to say we will not live that way. That is really pretty interesting.
You cited some research some research done in the UK recently about 72% of the content was dull,
Wasn't that amazing research?
and that AI is now consuming itself.
Yeah, yeah. And I think one of the most fun stories in the book, and I use this in my new speech about the book, is these researchers just simply couldn't believe how
Hmm.
bad most of marketing was. So they came up with the most boring thing they could think of. It was a cow eating grass. And they put a video of a cow eating grass into this same system. And they found that a cow eating grass performed about as well as B2B and B2C ads. I just think that's a great story and hilarious. And it kind of illustrates how low the bar is
Yeah.
today.
Because it challenged stuff like SEO and is there any point in producing content anymore if AI is there to produce content? So why would we produce content?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm I'm careful to make blanket statements about anything because there's always exceptions. There's always good business cases. I think there's always going to be a good business case, for advertising. There's always a good business case for SEO. Even the people who did the study said there could be a business case for dull advertising. It doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't work, but it costs more to make it work because you've got to put more money behind it compared to if you were interesting in the first place. Um, but I do think, in a way, my book throws down the gauntlet and says, look, what category are you in? Are you in the category of a cow chewing grass? And why? Is it because you're afraid? Some businesses, you've got to be conservative, right? I mean, you don't want to go to jail. You don't want to break the law. But if you're in the category of a cow chewing grass, and the reason is because, well, that's the way we've always done it. Well, then it's time to wake up and think about the world in a different way.
How do we cultivate crazy?
Well, I think that is really the best gift of the book,
Mm,
where I present this framework
mm,
that's pretty easy to follow.
yeah.
It's only three ideas, and you look at, well, what's marketing? It's presenting a story to the world that hopefully uh, creates some emotional connection between you and your customer and your potential customers. It creates an emotional expectation. So, what is a story? Well, it's the narrative, it's where you tell the story, and it's who tells the story. So, this is what became apparent to me as I went out and I interviewed all these creative geniuses and sort of distilled what is different here. And what is different is they disrupted one of those elements of the story. They disrupted the narrative by pushing the story in a way that's uncomfortable. Maybe it broke taboos. Maybe it was just weird. Maybe it got your attention because it is just not what you expect in this kind of industry. They disrupted where you told the story. And it doesn't have to be a big budget sort of activation, but it tells the story in an unexpected place that goes, oh, wow, that got my attention. And the last one is disrupting who tells the story. And today, I mean, we've got to be honest here that people probably don't believe us. They don't believe our companies. They don't believe our advertising. Trust in businesses and advertising and marketing has declined 15 years in a row, according to the Edelman Trust Barometer research. But we do trust each other. And I think the marketing mindset today is, how do we create a story that's so interesting, so worthy, so unmissable that our customers and our fans can't wait to tell other people about it. And I'll just mention that. So the cover of my book
Mm,
br- twists these ideas, right? So the cover of the book is a first in the world book. It's a QR code. The whole
mm,
cover is a QR code, and when you hover your phone over the QR code, the cover changes.
mm,
And it's abstract art inspired by stories in the book. All right, so I've disrupted the story. I've disrupted where the story is told. I've disrupted who's telling the story. It's the book cover is telling you the story.
I love it.
And so the book itself is an example of audacity, of this framework that I proposed in the book.
Like, do you recommend that the people sit down and go and look at those three things and going, how can I disrupt in one of these three areas?
I think so. Yeah, I really do. I think in different businesses, one might be easier than another. I think you need to do an assessment of your industry and your competitors, and um, and then just sort of brainstorm how can we show up in a different way? And it doesn't have to be, I mean, the way I end the book um, is that being audacious, it's not a stunt. It doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it has to make a difference. And making a difference today in the world of marketing means you are heard. Everybody, listening to us today has a desire to be seen. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to be discovered. And that is really hard today. And this is a way to sort of, set a foot on the path of that journey is to do something in a way that demands attention, that is not ignored. And so and it's already happening. It is. It's been amazing to see how the book has been embraced and how it's sort of igniting, brainstorming and thinking about how people and organizations are showing up in new ways. So that's been a lot of fun to see.
I remember replying to one of your posts on your blog once because I had a question, and it's a few years ago, and it was about this whole thing around Instagram reels or TikToks of, miming to, posing and dancing and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, it really made me uncomfortable. And I was going, it's not really, I wouldn't really get a kick out of it or whatever. And I remember, and because it's gimmickry to me. So what's the line? And I remember you replying and saying, well, that's not what people are buying from you, Finola, anyway. So, and I remember because it really landed with me and helped me. So in our effort to be audacious, we will probably often lean into gimmickry also. How do we stop? You understand where my struggle is here, to make sure that we are on brand, not doing it as a mindless task to get more likes or whatever, but actually has value.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it on the head. Um, I saw a young woman who was posting on social media, and she followed me because she was interested in personal branding, and I took a look at some of the stuff that she was doing, and her posts. I think her job was something like social media consultant or something like that, and her posts were just like she was wearing you know big, like animal ears on her head, and there were lights in the background, and she was like pounding a drum, but it didn't mean anything,
Yeah.
and so it didn't help you discover really who she was or what she did. And I think being audacious invites people to experience you, in a different way. Let's go back to the drone show
Yeah.
for a moment. And um, let's so the drone show was about a sci-fi TV series, and I actually took a picture of me and my friends standing on the sidewalk outside this restaurant with the drone show in the background. And so I wasn't just experiencing an ad, I was immersed in it.
Mm.
I was immersed in this story. Now, you could think up something crazy like this story was about robots. Oh, well, what if we had robots that had a pillow fight? What if we had robots that had a food fight? What if we had robots like this lady wearing animal ears, having flashing lights, pounding a drum? Well, it wouldn't mean anything because it's just loud. It's not, it doesn't help you experience the DNA of the brand. At the end of the book,
Mm.
I talk about a guy, back in in the 60s and the 70s, and it's still around a little bit today. Every city in the world had some showman that did something crazy to get attention. You know, the boss is away and we're doing something crazy to sell our cars today, right? Every city had someone like that, and our city had someone like that. And this guy would jump off of buildings and he would run through flaming tunnels and he would wrestle animals and he became famous, but his business went bankrupt. Oh, because he became the product. He was a stunt. It was completely disconnected from his furniture. It was all about him. It wasn't making people curious about his furniture. It wasn't making people curious enough to visit the store. They just wanted to see, what this guy was going to do next because he was so crazy. And eventually, he's going to kill himself with these stunts. And so I think whatever you do, it has to be tethered to the foundational ideas about your brand.
I like this statement, this word that you said, audacious does not mean loud.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Because we could
I
fall into
I
that trap very easily.
oh yeah. I mean I end the book with one of my favorite case studies. It's just a beautiful case study. And I think another fun thing about the book is that in many of the chapters, there's little QR codes that lead you to examples that lead you to, you can actually see examples of how this is happening. And the last example in the book is about a little town in Switzerland that was trying to get people in a busy train station to notice them and stop their busy lives and come visit this little village. So so what would I do? Oh, you might put up a poster, you know, you might have someone handing something out in the train station. Maybe even have someone dress up, right? But this is what they did. They had a kiosk in the train station with a guy from the village live streaming, talking to people in the train station and giving out free tickets to come visit for a picnic that day. And it's just a beautiful, lovely thing of an authentic human person connecting in a human way to people in a train station. And it's unexpected, and it uses technology to lower barriers with humanity, not raise barriers with humanity. And it's quiet, and it's peaceful, and it's not loud, it's not expensive, it's not flashy. It's just someone talking to people and having fun with them, and just talking to them at a train station. And that's a great example. I think that it doesn't have to be loud. It doesn't have to be crazy. You don't have to wrestle animals. You don't have to jump off of buildings, but it does have to make a difference. That's what it's all about. It's making a difference in this world so that people stop what they're doing in this busy world and just pay attention to us long enough to connect.
The other thing that's interesting to me as well, and I think it's an important message, builds on from your last book. This idea of most people lack shared experiences,
Yes.
and this idea of collective effervescence, which you might talk about, how community is actually the space where we can nurture creativity and bounce around ideas. Can you
Yeah.
say more about that, please?
Yeah. That is a big connection between those books. Um, we live in a world where we have record levels of depression,
Yeah.
loneliness, isolation, and not just children, just really almost every generation. Um, you know, People today can consume their entire world through earbuds in their bedroom. They can listen to their favorite music and their favorite TV shows and their favorite movies and podcasts and everything, and they can do it in complete isolation. And that is not the way we are built as human beings. We need those shared experiences. And, a real breakthrough idea for me is this idea that was presented by a social psychologist named Dacher Keltner. He wrote a book called Awe, and it unraveled a mystery for me because it's like, okay, everybody loves to see something that inspires awe or makes us feel awe, but how do you do that in marketing? And he talked about this idea called everyday awe that comes from just bringing people together in a special way. So let's say you're one of those people, you're listening to your favorite music over earbuds. And, that might be fun and you might enjoy the music. Now, think about going to see a concert of that same artist with your friends. And you're all singing and you're dancing and you're laughing. And that is awe. That's called collective effervescence. When you bring people together in this way that inspires awe and joy. Now, it's an easy leap from that. So it's not, awe can be the Grand Canyon. Awe can be holding a newborn baby. Awe can be listening to Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, but not always. It can just be gathering with people in a meaningful new way. Now we have a key to applying this to our businesses. How do we inspire collective effervescence? How do we get people to really immerse themselves in the idea of our brand, to internalize our brand through a shared experience? And I think that is one of the greatest opportunities in the history of marketing. It's right in front of our faces. We love it. We know others love it. Most of us aren't doing it. We're doing the same old stuff we've been doing for the last 25 years. What would it mean if the key to our marketing is add more awe?
Mm.
Add more awe. Wouldn't that be something our customers would love? This is something that AI can't touch. It's us. It's something we have to do. It's a uniquely human aspect to our business and to our marketing. And that's the area where we're going to add value going forward.
Do you think everybody, every human being on the planet is capable of adding more awe? Because not every human being on the planet believes that they're creative.
I mean, this is a theme that I hope comes out in all of my books. That first of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for reading the book, for being so well prepared, and you've asked me questions I've never been asked before. So that's the sign of a great interview. But one of the themes of my writing is the most human company wins, right? And I think that still is a persistent, valid idea that every opportunity we have to show our hearts and show our smiles and show our passion and show our compassion in every interaction we have with customers, potential customers, or all of our stakeholders. Just look to that, and that is a good leading path to audacity as well.
I love that. I urge everyone listening to purchase a copy of Mark's amazing book, Audacious: How Humans Win in an AI Marketing World. And it'll help you become more human.
Thank you so much. It's been a delight seeing you.
Oh, so nice to see you too. Thank you so much.